The transport ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Zarian Prime. Inside, Sujin checked her dance bag one more time. Her hands were steady, even though explosions lit up the sky outside the small window. "You're crazy," said the pilot through the comm system. "Dancing in a war zone? They should have sent more soldiers, not a performer." Sujin smiled and adjusted her modified hanbok. The traditional Korean dress now had energy shields woven into the fabric. It shimmered blue and silver in the dim light of the cargo hold. "Sometimes the softest touch moves the heaviest stones," she replied. The ship landed hard on the military base. When the doors opened, smoke and the smell of burning metal filled the air. Sujin stepped out onto the scarred landing pad. In the distance, she could see flashes of light from the ongoing battle. Commander Ji-ho waited for her with a group of officers. His Korean features looked tired and worn from 3 years of fighting. Behind him stood aliens of different species, all wearing military uniforms. "Welcome to hell," Ji-ho said in Korean, then switched to Galactic Standard. "This is the dancer. Earth sent us? The council must be joking." A tall alien with blue scales and 4 arms stepped forward. This was Commander Vex of the Altarian forces. His voice sounded like grinding stones. "We need weapons, not entertainment. The Warzones attacked again this morning. We lost 50 soldiers." Sujin bowed respectfully. "I understand your concerns, commanders. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to try something new." "New?" Vex laughed, a harsh sound. "The Warzones don't care about your little dances. They care about conquest and death. Perhaps that's exactly why we need this," said a gentle voice. Min-ji, a Korean doctor, approached the group. Her medical uniform was stained with purple blood from treating alien wounded. "We've tried everything else. More weapons, bigger bombs, stronger shields. Nothing stops the killing." Ji-ho rubbed his forehead. "Dr. Min-ji has been pushing for alternative approaches. That's why the council approved this experiment." "Sector 7 is a wasteland," Vex protested. "You want to send her there? The Warzones shell that area every 3 hours. It's suicide." Sujin looked toward the horizon where Sector 7 burned. "That's exactly where I need to be. Where the pain is greatest, where hope seems lost. That's where dance can speak loudest." The commanders exchanged glances. They thought she was insane, but orders were orders. "Fine," Ji-ho said finally. "We'll give you one chance. Tomorrow at sunrise before the morning bombardment. You'll have maybe 20 minutes before the Warzones start firing." That night, Sujin prepared in her assigned quarters. The room shook occasionally from distant explosions. She practiced her movements slowly, feeling the flow of each gesture. This wasn't just performance. Every step, every turn had meaning, passed down through generations of Korean dancers. She chose the fan dance for her first performance. The fans weren't just silk and bamboo anymore. The military engineers had reinforced them with quantum fibers and micro-shield generators. They could deflect small arms fire while maintaining their graceful appearance. Min-ji visited her before dawn. "I brought you some tea," the doctor said, offering a thermos. "Real Korean green tea. I've been saving it." "Thank you." Sujin sipped the familiar taste. "You really believe this might work?" Min-ji sat down beside her. "I've seen enough death to know that healing sometimes comes from unexpected places. When I was young in Seoul, my grandmother used to say that dance was the language of the soul. Maybe that's what we need here. A language everyone can understand." The sky was still dark when they headed to Sector 7. The convoy moved quickly through the ruined landscape. Burned buildings reached up like broken fingers. The ground was covered with shell craters and debris. They stopped at what used to be a plaza. A fountain lay shattered in the center, its water long gone. This would be Sujin's stage. Soldiers set up a perimeter. Humans, Altarians, Nexari, and others watched with skeptical eyes. Some placed bets on how long she would last before the shelling started. As the first light appeared on the horizon, Sujin walked to the center of the plaza. She had changed into her performance handbok. The morning air was cold and smelled of smoke and ozone. She closed her eyes and felt the ground beneath her feet. Somewhere, not far away, Vorthan artillery was preparing to fire. But in this moment, there was only the dance. She began slowly, her fans catching the pale morning light. The movements flowed like water, each gesture precise yet natural. The fan dance told the story of wind and flowers, of seasons changing, of life continuing, despite hardship. At first, the soldiers watched with amusement or boredom, but something strange happened as Sujin danced. The air seemed to shimmer around her, not from the shield generators, but something else. Her feet made no sound on the broken concrete, yet each step seemed to echo in the minds of those watching. The fans moved like birds in flight, creating patterns that held the eye and calmed the mind. A young Nexari soldier lowered his weapon without thinking. An Altarian medic found herself breathing in rhythm with the dancer's movements. Even Jiho, hardened by years of war, felt something shift inside him. Memories of his grandmother in Busan, teaching him old Korean songs. The taste of kimchi jjigae on a cold winter day. Things he hadn't thought about since coming to this war. Then the first shell exploded 200 meters away. But Sujin didn't stop. She spun through the shockwave, her fans cutting through the smoke and dust. Another explosion, closer this time. Debris rained down, but her shields deflected it in streams of blue light. "Get her out of there," Vex shouted. But something impossible was happening. The shelling was stopping. Not gradually, but suddenly, as if someone had given an order. In the distance, on a Vorthan observation post, enemy soldiers lowered their binoculars. They had seen many things in this war, but never this. A single human, dancing in defiance of death itself. As Sujin finished her dance, the plaza fell silent. No more shells, no more explosions, just the sound of wind through broken buildings. She opened her eyes and smiled. It was a small beginning, but it was a beginning, high above. In orbit, scientific instruments registered something unusual, energy patterns unlike anything seen before, centered on one small plaza in Sector 7. The war was far from over, but in that moment, in that place, there was no shooting, no killing. Only a woman in a shimmering dress, holding decorated fans, standing in the rubble of what had been. And for the first time in 3 years, the sunrise over Zarian Prime seemed to hold promise instead of dread. News of the strange event in Sector 7 spread quickly through the military base. Soldiers whispered about the human dancer who had stopped the morning bombardment. Some called it luck. Others said it was a fluke. But the scientists knew something unusual had happened. Hyun-woo, a Korean physicist, stared at his data screens in the research lab. The readings made no sense. During Sujin's dance, his instruments had detected energy patterns that didn't match any known weapon or shield technology. "Look at this," he called to his assistant, a four-eyed Zilani named Crix. "The frequencies are all wrong. This isn't electromagnetic, it's not quantum either. It's something else." Crix adjusted all 4 of his eyes to focus on the screen. The patterns match biological neural waves, but amplified beyond anything possible. Hyun-woo pulled up video footage of the dance. She was just moving. No weapons, no tech beyond basic shields. But somehow she created a field that affected everyone watching, even the Vorthans. Meanwhile, in the command center, Jiho faced a room full of arguing officers. "It's psychological warfare," insisted Commander Vex. "The Vorthans stopped firing because they were confused, nothing more." "Then explain why they've requested to observe her next performance," Jiho replied, showing a message on the main screen. "This came through diplomatic channels an hour ago." The room fell silent. The Vorthans never made requests. They made demands or they attacked. General Thax of the Vorthan Empire watched from his command ship. The recording of Sujin's dance played on his screen for the 10th time. His 3 hearts beat with unusual rhythm. "What did she do to our soldiers?" he asked his science officer. "Unknown, General, but brain scans show decreased aggression markers in all troops who observed the performance. The effect lasted approximately 4 hours. Thax's scaled hands clenched. A weapon that makes soldiers not want to fight? Impossible. But he couldn't deny what he felt watching the recording. Something deep in his warrior culture responded to the graceful movements. It reminded him of the ancient Vorthan blade ceremonies, before his people had forgotten their artistic traditions in centuries of war. Back on the surface, Su-jin prepared for her second performance. This time she would dance in the refugee camp in Sector 12. The camp held thousands of displaced beings from dozens of species. Minji led her through the crowded paths between temporary shelters. "The children here have known nothing but war," the doctor explained. "Some were born in this camp, they've never seen their homeworlds." A small alien girl with green skin and large eyes watched from behind her mother. Her name was Yoonji, given by the Korean medical staff who had saved her life. She had never spoken since arriving at the camp. Su-jin knelt down to the child's level. "Would you like to see me dance?" Yoonji nodded slightly, clutching a worn blanket. The performance space was just a cleared area between shelter units. No grand plaza this time, just packed dirt and tired faces. Refugees gathered slowly, suspicious of any unusual activity. Su-jin chose the flower crown dance. It celebrated spring and new beginnings. She had no props except simple ribbons tied to her wrists. As she began, the camp fell quiet. Her movements painted invisible pictures in the air, flowers blooming, rain falling on thirsty earth, children playing in meadows. The refugees watched, transfixed. Species that had been enemies before the war sat side by side. A Vorthan deserter found himself next to an Altarian family he had once fought against. Neither moved away. Hyunwoo had set up monitoring equipment around the performance area. The readings were even stronger than before. The energy field extended nearly 50 meters in all directions. "It's incredible," he whispered to his recorder. "The field is interacting with the observer's neural patterns. It's not controlling them, but harmonizing them somehow." Little Yoonji stepped forward from the crowd. Her mother reached for her, but Minji gently held the woman back. "Wait, watch." The child began to move, copying Su-jin's gestures with her small arms. Not perfectly, but with understanding. For the first time since losing her family, Yoonji smiled. Then she spoke. A single word in her native language. "Beautiful." Her mother sobbed with joy. Around the camp, other children began to stand, swaying with the dance. Some adults joined them, awkwardly at first, then with growing confidence. When Su-jin finished, the camp erupted in something they hadn't heard in years. Applause. Laughter. Voices talking excitedly in multiple languages. Minji checked her medical scanners. Stress hormones down 40%. Endorphin levels rising. Heart rate stabilizing across all species. "This is better than any treatment we have." The next day, Jiho received more unusual messages. 3 different battalion commanders reported decreased fighting in sectors where soldiers had watched recordings of Su-jin's dances. The effect was temporary, but measurable. "We need to study this properly," Hyunwoo argued in the strategy meeting. "If we can understand the mechanism, we might be able to amplify it." "You want to turn a cultural performance into a weapon?" Minji challenged. "No. I want to turn it into medicine, into hope." Su-jin listened quietly as they debated. She understood their confusion. They were trying to explain something that couldn't be measured by their instruments. In ancient Korea, her teachers had called it hyung, the spirit of joy and emotional release that came through art. But how do you quantify the human soul? How do you measure the power of beauty in a world of ugliness? General Thax made an unprecedented decision. He would come to the neutral zone to observe the next performance in person. His advisors protested, but he overruled them. "If the humans have developed a new weapon, I must understand it," he stated. But privately, he admitted to himself that he wanted to feel again what the recording had stirred in him. The news shocked both sides. A Vorthan general willing to risk assassination to watch a dance? It seemed absurd. Su-jin prepared for her most important performance yet. She would dance the sword dance, a traditional Korean military dance. But she would transform it from a display of warfare into a plea for peace. As word spread, more observers arrived. Scientists with instruments, soldiers with weapons lowered. refugees who had walked for hours to attend. And high above, satellites from 17 different civilizations turned their sensors toward one small planet, where a human woman in flowing robes prepared to dance for the enemy of all free worlds. The age of the harmony phenomenon was beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Crimson Valley had earned its name from the red soil, but now it seemed prophetic. Intelligence reports showed massive troop movements on both sides. The largest battle of the war was about to begin. "Evacuate the civilians," Jiho ordered, studying the tactical displays. "In 12 hours, this valley will be a killing field. 3 million beings lived in the settlements scattered through the valley. Different species who had fled the war, only to find it following them." Sujin stood at the observation post looking down at the valley. The morning sun painted the landscape in shades of red and gold. Beautiful and terrible. "You can't go down there," Commander Vex said behind her. "Both armies are deploying their heaviest weapons. Nothing will survive." "That's exactly why I must go," Sujin replied. "Not to the edges, but to the center, where the armies will meet." "That's suicide," Vex's forearms gestured frantically. "Even your shields won't protect you from orbital bombardment." But Sujin had already decided. She turned to Jiho. "Remember the old Korean proverb? The bamboo that bends survives the storm that breaks the oak." Jiho's face was grim. "This isn't a storm, it's annihilation." "Then let's transform it." Ambassador Jae-sung had been working through the night, sending messages to both sides. The replies were all negative. Neither army would delay their attack. "They're too committed," he reported via secure comm. "The Vorthons have Prince Zeth leading their assault force. He's young and eager to prove himself." Yuna, the military strategist, pulled up the prince's profile. 20 cycles old, never seen actual combat. His father sent him to earn glory. "A child playing at war," Minji muttered, treating wounded from the morning skirmishes. "How many will die for his glory?" As noon approached, both armies moved into position. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, enough firepower to crack the planet's crust. The countdown to battle had begun. Sujin prepared in her quarters. She chose the sword dance, but modified it. Instead of the traditional single blade, she would dance with 2 swords representing the opposing forces. The swords weren't weapons. Military engineers had crafted them from crystallized light, able to channel and redirect energy. They looked like captured starlight. "The transport is ready," a young pilot reported. "But I should warn you, both sides are targeting anything that moves in the valley." "Then we move like the wind," Sujin smiled. "Unpredictable and everywhere, at once." The small stealth transport slipped through both defensive lines. Below, soldiers made final preparations. Above, warships moved into bombardment positions. They landed in the exact center of the valley, at the ruins of an ancient peace monument. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Sujin stepped out alone. 2 armies watched through scopes and sensors. Many had orders to fire, but something made them hesitate. She began the sword dance as the first artillery shells arced overhead. Her movements were unlike anything she had performed before. Each step left glowing footprints. Each sword stroke painted light in the air. The dance told a story without words. 2 forces eternally opposed, circling, striking, neither able to defeat the other. The futility of endless conflict. On the Vorthon side, Prince Zeth watched through his command scope. He had expected to see fear in the humans' movements. Instead, he saw something that reminded him of his mother's stories. Tales of ancient Vorthon, heroes who danced before battle, when honor meant more than victory. The prince raised his hand, about to give the order to attack, but his hand wouldn't move. Around him, his warriors stood transfixed. On the Alliance side, similar silence fell. Fingers froze on triggers. Targeting computers refused to lock on, not from malfunction, but from operators who couldn't bring themselves to fire. Hyunwoo monitored from orbit, his instruments going wild. "The field is massive. It's covering the entire valley. Brainwave patterns are synchronizing across species barriers." Sujin's dance reached its climax. The two swords came together, not in conflict, but in harmony. Light exploded outward in waves, washing over both armies. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. Soldiers saw through their enemies' eyes, felt their fears, their homesickness, their reasons for fighting. A Vorthan warrior saw his Altarian opponent's memory of children left behind. An Earth Marine felt a Vorthan's grief for a destroyed homeworld. The artificial barriers between species dissolved. Prince Zeth removed his helmet. Tears ran down his scaled face. "What are we doing?" he whispered. "What have we become?" His words carried through the comm systems. Other voices joined his, questions, doubts. Soldiers stepping back from their weapons. Sujin finished her dance as the sun reached its zenith. She stood in the center of the valley, two armies watching, and spoke through the universal translator. "You came here to make war, but look at each other, really look. Are you so different? Do you not all bleed? Do you not all love? Do you not all dream of home?" The silence stretched. Then, from the Vorthan lines, Prince Zeth walked forward. Alone. Unarmed. His generals tried to stop him, but he waved them back. From the Alliance side, a young human lieutenant did the same. They met Sujin at the center. "I don't want to die for someone else's hatred," the prince said. "I don't want my name remembered for how many I killed." "Then be remembered for this," Sujin replied, "for the day you chose life over death." The prince knelt, not in submission, but in recognition. The human lieutenant joined him. Then, like ripples in a pond, others began moving. Small groups at first, then larger ones. Enemies approaching enemies, weapons lowered. By sunset, the Crimson Valley had become something else. Not a battlefield, but a gathering place. Soldiers shared rations. Medics from both sides treated wounded together. The first informal peace talks began around campfires, not between diplomats, but between warriors tired of war. General Thax arrived as darkness fell. He had watched everything from his command ship. Now he walked among the mixed groups of soldiers, seeing something he had thought impossible. He found Sujin sitting with Prince Zeth and several officers from both sides. They were sharing tea from Minji's precious supply. "How?" Thax asked simply. "My people have warriors' hearts. We live for battle." "Warriors can be the greatest peacemakers," Sujin replied, "because they understand the true cost of war. Your prince showed more courage today than in any battle. He chose the harder path." That night, the emergency session of the Galactic Council received two simultaneous transmissions, from the Alliance and the Vorthan Empire, both requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. The war wasn't over, but in the Crimson Valley, under stars that shone on former enemies sharing stories and food, something had fundamentally changed. The age of dancing through Warzones had truly begun. News of the Crimson Valley miracle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The war that had consumed worlds and destroyed millions of lives had paused because of one human dancing with swords of light. Earth's government received thousands of requests daily. Every conflict zone, every disputed border, every planet torn by civil war wanted their own dancers. Dong Hyun had been a professional dancer in Seoul before the war. Now he stood before a group of 200 volunteers in Earth's largest training facility. They came from all backgrounds, all ages, all dance traditions. "You're not learning to perform," he told them. "You're learning to speak the universal language of movement, to touch hearts across species barriers." The volunteers included former soldiers like Hayun. She had lost her left arm in combat and now used a sophisticated prosthetic. The war had taken her limb but not her spirit. "Why? Did you volunteer?" Dong Hyun asked her during training. "I've taken lives," Hayun replied, practicing a traditional fan movement. "Now I want to save them, to give peace the same dedication I once gave to war." The training was intense. Not just dance techniques, but alien psychology, cultural sensitivity, and survival skills. They called themselves the Harmony Corps. Meanwhile, Sujin traveled constantly. One day in the methane swamps of Kepler-7, the next in the crystal cities of the Andromeda colonies. Each performance adapted to local conflicts, local pain. On the Vorthon homeworld, something unprecedented was happening. General Thax had returned, changed. He spoke of art and beauty, concepts the Vorthon military class had abandoned centuries ago. Young Vorthons, inspired by Prince Zeth, began demanding access to their suppressed cultural heritage. In hidden vaults, they found ancient drums, ceremonial robes, forgotten dances. "My great-grandmother was a storm dancer," one young soldier told reporters. "She called rain for the crops. When did we forget we were more than warriors?" The Vorthon Imperial Palace, closed to outsiders for 500 years, opened its doors. Prince Zeth personally invited Su Jin to perform in the throne hall. Emperor Vex the Terrible, whose very name made worlds tremble, sat on his obsidian throne. His age was beyond counting, his heart hardened by millennia of conquest. Su Jin danced the story of tears. It spoke of loss and redemption, of hearts frozen by hate learning to feel again. She had created it specifically for this moment, as she moved. Holographic archives around the throne room activated. They showed Vorthon history, not the military conquests, but the forgotten arts, poetry, music, gardens that once bloomed in the now barren imperial city. The emperor's ancient eyes, dry for centuries, began to weep. Those tears, the first in living memory, changed everything. "Enough," he said, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Enough death, enough conquest. We have forgotten who we were. Let us remember." The transformation wasn't instant or easy. Hardline military factions resisted. But the younger generation, led by Prince Zeth, pushed forward reforms. Council Elder Morith of the Altarian delegation addressed the Galactic Assembly. "I propose Resolution 7747, officially recognizing the dance protocol as a legitimate form of diplomacy." The debate was heated. Traditional military powers argued it was temporary, that old hatreds would resurface, but the evidence was overwhelming. On 17 different worlds, active conflicts had ended after dance interventions. Refugee camps reported dramatic improvements in mental health. Even species considered emotionally incompatible were finding common ground. Hyun Woo presented his research to the Scientific Council. "The dance creates what we're calling empathic resonance fields. They don't force peace. They enable understanding. The choice to stop fighting remains with the participants." "But why humans?" asked a skeptical Zilani scientist. "What makes your species special?" Minji answered from her experience in the camps. "Humans are not the strongest or the smartest, but we never lost our need for art. While other species optimized for war or technology, we kept dancing at weddings, singing at funerals, painting our feelings. That preservation of culture became our unexpected strength. The Harmony Corps grew rapidly. Soon it included members from other species. A Vorthon storm dancer taught alongside Korean traditional artists. Altarian light weavers shared techniques with African tribal dancers. Ha Yun led the first mixed species unit to the Proxima border dispute. Former enemies now worked together, using movement to bridge linguistic and cultural gaps. "It's not magic," she explained to a local commander. "Dance bypasses the rational mind. It speaks to something deeper, older than language. When beings move together, breathe together, they remember they're not so different." Military academies across the galaxy began revising their curricula. Strategy classes now included cultural understanding. Weapons training was balanced with artistic expression. Jiho, promoted to general, oversaw the integration at Earth's primary military academy. "The greatest victory is the battle you don't have to fight," he told the cadets. "Learn to wage peace with the same skill you wage war." Su Jin established the first Harmony Center on the site of Sector 7, where her journey had begun. The ruins were transformed into gardens and performance spaces. Species that had tried to exterminate each other now learned each other's dances. Little Yunji, the refugee child who had found her voice through dance, became one of the youngest teachers. Though only 8 cycles old, she had an intuitive understanding of movement therapy. The anniversary of the Crimson Valley event was declared Galactic Harmony Day. The celebration would feature the largest coordinated dance in history. 47 species. Millions of participants performing simultaneously on hundreds of worlds. Sujin stood in the center of the main stage, built where the two armies had faced each other a year before. Around her, beings of every shape and size took their positions. The dance began with a single heartbeat broadcast across the galaxy, then movement rippled outward. Each species contributed its own traditions, but all followed the same rhythm. The universal rhythm of life itself. From space, the energy fields were visible as aurora-like patterns surrounding each world. For 1 hour, the galaxy danced as one. In his palace, the Vorthan Emperor moved to music for the first time in 2,000 years. On military bases, soldiers laid down weapons to join the celebration. In refugee camps, children who had known only fear learned to laugh. The revolution was complete, not through force or conquest, but through the simple act of beings moving together, sharing the languages of their bodies and souls. War hadn't ended forever. Conflict still arose. But now there was another way. When tensions rose, when old hatreds stirred, someone would step forward and begin to dance. And slowly, surely, others would join them. 20 years had passed since the Crimson Valley miracle. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Sujin, now in her 60s, walked through the gardens of the Universal Peace Memorial. Cherry trees from Earth bloomed beside, crystal flowers from Altair and flame vines from the Vorthon homeworld. Life flourished where millions had once prepared to die. "Grandmother, tell me about the old days," her granddaughter Hana asked. The child was 8, the same age Yunji had been when she first spoke again. Sujin smiled, her face lined with years but her eyes still bright. The old days? When people thought the only way to solve problems was with bigger weapons? They sat on a bench overlooking the valley. In the distance, the Harmony Academy rose like a beacon. Students from every corner of the galaxy came here to learn the arts of peace. Was it really so different? Hana asked, playing with a holographic butterfly that landed on her hand. "Come, I'll show you." They walked to the memorial center where history lived in interactive displays. The first hall showed the galaxy before the transformation. Wars, devastation, species driven to near extinction. This was normal, Sujin explained. Every disagreement ended in violence. Every difference became a reason to hate. The next hall showed the journey of change. Sujin's first dance in Sectors 7, the refugee camps, the Crimson Valley. Each display included testimonies from those who were there. Commander Vex, now retired, appeared in one recording. "I thought she was crazy. A dancer in a war zone. But she showed us that strength isn't just about weapons. Sometimes the bravest thing is to be vulnerable." They found Jiho in the academy's main courtyard, teaching a mixed class of cadets. Though his hair was gray now, he moved with a dancer's grace as he demonstrated defensive movements. "These techniques aren't for killing," he told his students. "They're for protection, for creating space where dialogue can happen. Remember, every being you face has a story. Your job is to help them tell it without violence." After class, Jiho joined Sujin and Hana. "Showing her the old times?" he asked. "She needs to understand why we dance," Sujin replied. "Why it matters." They visited the Cultural Exchange Center where Prince Zeth, now King Zeth, was hosting a delegation of young artists. The Vorthan royal family had become patrons of the arts, supporting creative expression across their empire. "Your grandmother changed everything," Zeth told Hana. "She taught us that warriors could be artists, that strength could be gentle." Hayun now directed the Harmony Corps Training Center. Her prosthetic arm had been upgraded with sensors that could detect emotional frequencies, helping her teach students to read the subtle energies of conflict. "We have over 10,000 active Harmony Corps members," she reported. "Last month alone, they prevented 14 potential conflicts from escalating. The early intervention protocols are working. The reformed military academies taught a new doctrine. Combat training still existed but was balanced with cultural studies, empathy development, and artistic expression. Graduation required proficiency in at least one art form. Minji had established the trauma healing centers on 12 worlds. Dance therapy, combined with advanced medical treatment, helped veterans and refugees recover from the psychological wounds of war. We're seeing recovery rates that seemed impossible before, Minji explained, showing brain scans. Movement therapy rewires neural pathways damaged by trauma. It literally helps people dance their way back to wholeness. Donghyun's Harmony Corps had evolved into a respected organization. They were called to mediate everything from trade disputes to territorial conflicts. Their success rate was remarkable. The key is early intervention, Donghyun told a gathering of planetary leaders. When tensions start rising, send dancers, not soldiers. Address the emotional roots before they grow into violence. The Vorthon transformation continued to inspire others. Their former military factories now produced musical instruments and art supplies. Their warriors' training grounds had become gardens and amphitheaters. Hyunwoo's research had unlocked new understanding of consciousness and empathy. The harmony field generators, based on his work, could now amplify the effects of dance across entire star systems. We're not controlling minds, he insisted to ethics committees. We're creating conditions where natural empathy can flourish. The choice to peace remains individual. Earth had become the cultural capital of the galaxy. The Seoul Arts District covered half the Korean peninsula. Artists, musicians, and dancers from every known species came to study and create. Traditional Korean culture experienced a renaissance. The techniques that had saved the galaxy were studied and preserved. Ancient dances were taught alongside new forms created for interspecies harmony. Yoon-ji, now in her 20s, had become one of the most gifted dance therapists in the galaxy. She specialized in working with child soldiers, helping them reclaim their innocence through movement. Dance gave me my voice, she said in a documentary. Now I help others find theirs. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. The war industry, once the galaxy's largest employer, had shifted to cultural production. Entertainment, education, and artistic exchange generated more wealth than weapons ever had. Former battleships were converted into traveling cultural centers. They visited remote systems, bringing art and music to worlds that had known only conflict. The annual Galactic Harmony Day had grown into a week-long celebration. Each year featured new collaborative works combining the traditions of different species. The energy generated during these events could be detected from neighboring galaxies. As evening fell over the memorial, Sujin and Hana attended the dedication of the new monument. A massive holographic display showed a simple message in every known language. Where bombs once fell, let beauty rise. Where hatred ruled, let harmony dance. Below these words, a dedication. To Sujin of Earth, who danced through war zones and left peace where bombs used to fall. Sujin held Hana's hand as they watched thousands of beings gathering for the evening performance. Humans danced with Vorthons. Altarians moved alongside Nexari. Former enemies had become partners in the eternal dance of peace. Will I dance, like you someday, grandmother? Hana asked. You already do, Sujin replied. Every time you choose kindness over anger, understanding over fear, you're dancing. The steps matter less than the spirit behind them. As the performance began, beings of all species moved together under the stars. Their combined energy created aurora patterns in the sky, visible proof of harmony achieved. The age of eternal war had ended. The age of infinite peace hadn't arrived. But between these extremes, the galaxy had found a new way. When conflicts arose, as they always would, someone would step forward and begin to dance, and others would join them, remembering that they were all part of the same cosmic dance, the eternal rhythm of life seeking harmony with itself. In the Crimson Valley, where the greatest battle never fought had changed history, peace continued to dance where bombs once fell.